Before I continue with the presentation, I just want to take a moment to thank a couple of few people that have been very, very wonderful, very, very helpful to me. Dr. Elliott and Maureen, they've been very, very, very good people to me. You know, Dr. Murphy and the husband for welcoming us to the house. You know, over the Christmas, I spent Christmas with the Elliots, and it was so perfect, far away from home, and having a family here. It's such a wonderful opportunity. And I want to thank Dr. Elliott once again, you know, for the leadership that he has for the department. You know, they are such a wonderful group of people. They are very, very, very good. I mean, you know, Tim Murphy, just when I arrived last year, organized to get the car for me to be able to get around. You know, that for me meant a lot, and I appreciate the leadership of Dr. Elliott. You know, and if I was the dean or whoever, I think Dr. Murphy to me has been very outstanding. I would certainly give a rise or whatever. So she's been very, very much supportive in terms of our work as we do here, teaching classes here, you know, and her being there, she's been very, very helpful. And everybody else, Texas A&M, they've been very wonderful people. So today what I have here, it's a lot of information, but you know, the idea is to have a discussion, to have a conversation with you. So some of the slides would just be, you know, something that I'll go through very quickly. And then I wanted to say I'm not going to market Namibia here, because when I do the marketing, it fails me. You know, last year when I arrived, I had a discussion with Vince. We sat a little bit over lunch, and then they were making a story, and I never get to see that story about whether it was published in any paper or anything, or it was just documented somewhere. So I never got to see that. And then also in my other class, the number of students, I think I was looking that I will have 40 students, but about 10, 20 or so, but which is also a good number. So marketing Namibia will not be a good thing for me. I might not focus on that. Another thing, you know, I've enjoyed my stay in College Station, despite the housing issue. That is something else. But other than that, I've had good time. So let me give you some just little information. The location, I think most of you here have been to Namibia, and you know it's Southern Africa, southwest of Africa, bordering Zambia in the north, Angola, and also on the east coast. We have Botswana, and then a little bit of Zimbabwe on the Caprivi tip. So the little map that I have here, let me see how, this map here, I wanted to show you where I come from, in the Caprivi Strip. That little strip is named after the German Chancellor who founded it in 1886. You know, when he wanted to get through the Zambezi to go through the Victoria Falls, and eventually it was donated, or they negotiated to give it back to Namibia, you know, so that it can access the port of Walvisbay, which developed much further. So I wanted to share that with you. A background, why I'm here, I've worked with Dr. Murphy, Dr. Wash Jones from Perryview to put up, you know, to apply for a grant, Fulbright grant. And then with a very good support from Texas A&M, you know, Dr. Elliott put so much effort, and everybody else that supported the whole grant. It's a thick paged paper that, you know, went through. And then again, together with the University of Namibia, the support there has been very, very good to bring me up here. My names, just to share with you, Kalundu is just means as mountain Subia or Slozy. And then Musamai means somebody that travels a lot, or I mean a traveler in Subia or Lozi. Kennedy is my name that my uncle gave me. And then Sean is just a soccer name that has become so popular, and then it is there on my document and everything. So, but my friends in Caprivi, when we used to play soccer, they would pronounce or call me Sin, you know, as it's spelled there. So, but then when I went to college interacting with people, they say, well, why don't you write it or spell it in a way that Sean Bartlett, the South African soccer player, writes his name, so that it can even look much more better. So I adopted that, and then it becomes. I come from a very big family, 13 siblings, you know, 6 men and then 7 girls. Some of them are now women, grown up, married, and happily having their own family. And then I have this little boy here that makes me get up every morning and be so much happy. I look forward and I pray every day just to see him. He keeps me very, very happy. Jabari is a Swahili name for a warrior, or somebody fearless. Tangi is an Oshwambo name that means thank you. So all these names, they have a meaning, and then this is my family when they were here. They met with Dr. Murphy right here in the corridor downstairs, and then that is me and that little man. Background of Namibia, independent. It became a republic in 1990, after being colonized by the German for a little over 30 years. And then after that, in 1917, it was given to be mandated or to be ruled by South Africa. Then, from 1917 to 1989, when people started voting, eventually 1990 we got independence. So Namibia is 22 years old. They just celebrated their 22nd birthday on Wednesday. So it's still a very, very young country, with only about 2.2 million people. The country is such a huge country. It's a little bit bigger than Texas, but then you have about 2.2 million people, and that's been a major concern for some of the people that want to take advantage of, investing in Namibia, because they demand, for services. You have a bigger country, some of the issues that I'm going to mention here. You have a bigger country with so much sparsely populated people, villages in little areas. So the infrastructure that is there, basically, that exists is what just connecting major cities or major towns together. But then a lot of people are into the rural area where there's no good infrastructure. So that has been some of the major thing. Here, what I wanted to illustrate here, just to show you the ecological zones that occur in Namibia. A desert, bigger portion, 22%, with very little to almost, 4 inches of rain per year. That is very, very, but again, with that 4 inches of rain, you still find there's some desert animals, horses that are living there, desert elephant that are living there. So you can imagine what is happening there. And then the arid part of it, 33%, with an average of 4 to 12 inches of rain per annum. And then the semi-arid part, that is 37%. So you can see that this is a country that is very, very dry. And we say that, about out of this percentage, a very small percentage that you can see about 80% considered to be humid and semi-humid. So that is the part where I come from, in the north and the northeastern part of Namibia, where we receive annual rainfall about 29 to 40 inches of rain. So that is very, still not as much, but then it's causing a lot of flooding. I'll show you some of the pictures. The rivers, the Zambezi River that is up there, the Kalundu River between Namibia and Angola, when it overflows, water coming from there, it's also affecting a lot of people in these countries. So national identity, there's a lot of, the majority of people in Namibia, they are Oshwambo speaking people, about 40 or so percent of them speak Oshwambo. And then we have the Herero, the Himba, the Kabango, and the Caprivian, where I come from. And then where we speak Subia, Lozi, and a lot of other languages. It's a Swana people that, partly in the southeastern part of Namibia. And then we have the Khoisan, the San people, the Bushmen, the Nama people that click, they speak with the clicking tongue. And then some of the people that you may see there, also a lot of them, the Afrikaners, people that were there since before independence, that are involved in large-scale farming, cattle farming. And then the German population is still there. You find a lot of them in Swakopmund, where they retire. So after independence, English was adopted as an official language for Namibia. So you got Namibia, Dr. Elliot, Dr. Murphy, Dr. Murphy, and people that visit Namibia, it's easy. You converse with almost everybody on the street with the English, even though it might not be as fluent and good as here. People. And then people, the majority, the Ovambo people, they prefer a lot of millet. Where I come from, millet, the mahangu, we call it mahangu, which is these little grains that they crush. I have a picture there, and make flour that they cook make porridge out of it and eat with either meat, eat it with meat, or beans, or even milk, sour milk, buttermilk, or you call, I think it's buttermilk. So, but where I come from, we eat a lot of maize, the white maize, grind them and then cook that. And a lot of people, when they see mahangu, they think it's very nutritious, but then they always see that something, it's brownish, it doesn't look very good, but it's very, very nutritious. My wife is from the Ovambo people, so they cook that, and then, I used to refuse eating that. Every time I see it on the plate, I say, no, I don't want to eat something like this, but very interesting. So meat is very, very popular because Namibia produces that lots and lots and lots of meat. The Herero people, they are known for making lots of different dishes of meat. So meat is very popular, and then fish is increasing in terms of, there's been a lot of concern why Namibia not consuming so much fish, while we have the ocean where we have so many fishing companies, but yet people are not consuming fish, considering that meat is destined for export, so it's more expensive. Why can't we look at this? So there's been a lot of talk about it. And then general, this is just to share with you, majority of us, as we were growing up, men, we help with cultivating in the field. Once we are done with cultivating, plowing and everything, we give the work to the women. Women do weeding. After that, they prepare the food and do everything. So for us as young men, we wake up so early in the morning, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock a.m., go get the oxen from the crow, and you put a yoke around them, put the implement, the plow, and you walk, so many miles to go and do the plowing. After you do that, you come home, and then women take over everything. So, and then again, like I said, what they do is this work, it's challenging. If you don't do this pounding of this millet or maize, it means that you can't have a meal for the day. For most people that are in the rural area, people have to create, you have to pound, you take all that, take out the grains, winnow them and take the shafts out, and then have the grains, pound the grains and create that flour that you can use for cooking. And then a lot of people, like I said, they are so dispersed in all these different rural areas where there's no proper drinking water. So what do? Where they find a well, or where there's wetland, not a wetland, what is the right word? Where they find a stream or water where they are able to go collect water. So they would use the ox, these 2 oxen, with a yoke, put a sleigh on it, and then take a 250 liters drum and go collect water in there. So they bring that water into the village. So you find that weekly basis people go far away to fetch water and bring it home. So these are some of the issues that are there. It's a bigger, and then 90% of people are Christians, about 10% of people practice their own religion, people that believe in witchcraft, people that believe in certain other things. So 10% of that. And then etiquette, Namibians, they have this way of greeting. When they greet you, they spend a little bit, 5-10 minutes just greeting. They ask you about everything, from the cows, from the chicken, from the dogs, how is the family, and then eventually they will start telling you what the problem is. They don't just come to you and say, well, somebody passed away in our village. Even if there's somebody that passed away in the village, they still greet you, everything, until they discussed everything with you, and then they say, well, the reason why I came here, it's because we have, my village, our uncle also passed away, and then it starts on like that. So there's always that extent. And then again, the issue culture-wise, that when you are offered something to drink or eat, accept, just take it. Try a little bit, and then, don't say no, because people always feel like, well, then you are of a higher class than us, and we have nothing to discuss with you. So if you refuse our food, it means that then you belong somewhere else. So those are some of the things, and then, the overview in terms of progress that has been made, in terms of, reconciling with the nation. Namibia inherited so much disparities. People, our education system was so much divided. People were divided based on their tribal lines. The Ovambo people had their own education. the Caprivian people had their own education, so the Hereros had their own education. This was in Namibia before independence. So after that, they've decided to come up with policies that look at national reconciliation. Let's let everybody else reconcile our differences and move forward. And then affirmative action that, tries to address the issue of social inequalities that we created. A lot of us, when we were in school, we shared textbooks. We were taught by people that never had degrees, except for few Zimbabweans that came and worked in the Namibian education that were there to teach us math and English. Other than that, it was so horrible in terms of, trying to, even scholarships were very few people in the southern part of the country that were able to study in South Africa. But even then, it was only for the colored and the so-called, the bastards that stayed somewhere in the southern part of Namibia. So a lot of people were, being affected by the apartheid laws that were existing. The issue of land, as we are going to talk about it, it's another major issue where a lot of land is owned by the 1% of the minority, and when you have, about 90% of people don't own land, or they own about 1 to 3 acres of land. And then you have people that own about 50,000 acres of land. And then how do you equalize that equation? So this has been some of the issues. And then to avoid going into the way that Zimbabwe did in terms of land reform, they've created a couple of things that they've put forward that we are going to look at. So in terms of the economy, briefly, agriculture about 9% in terms of its contribution to GDP. And then a lot is coming from the services, that is 73%. And then agriculture is mainly, like I said, animal production, livestock production. A lot of people that have gone to Namibia, Samantha, that have traveled all the way to the north, you have seen bigger chunks of land that is fenced, people involved in livestock production, also in wildlife, people that are in wildlife in terms of diversifying their farming. And then aquaculture has also come into handy, the fact that they got from Malaysia, people are now practicing aquaculture. Tilapia is one of the fish and catfish that they are being put there. Mining, it's a bigger chunk. We can talk that we are number 4 uranium, but even we talk about this, saying that Namibia is the largest producer of uranium. What are the benefits? What do we get from there? What are the people benefiting from all these mines? So we have all these mineral resources, but it's still in the hands of the few. And then in terms of the economic partners, we have South Africa, major economic partner in terms of our export and imports. We import from there. And then Germany through the concessional loans that we get from there. And then helping with the land reform, a lot of people that own land in bigger chunks of land in Namibia are German farmers. So what they do, Germany is supporting that land reform issue by providing, grants to the government to be able to acquire these loans and be able to fairly distribute them to the minority. So that's what has been happening. USA, no question about it, they've worked so much, they are still there, they are contributing so much in terms of, developing the agriculture sector through the MCA project. And even before the MCA project, there's been a lot of investment in education, a lot of volunteer teachers that have left, from the US that have gone to teach English in Namibian schools. They've been there since before the MCA. And also tourism, and then on the issue of HIV and AIDS, the US has been a major contributor to the Global Fund. 30% of the fund from Global Fund come from the US. So that has helped a lot in terms of some of the issues that I'm going to touch on. And then again, South Africa and Namibia, very good trading partner. The rand is 1-to-1 with the Namibian dollar. So most of our economy is almost linked in a way. And then we are part of the common monetary area where, the rand is a legal tender in Namibia. You could use it anywhere where you go. And then we are part of SACU, where SACU generates so much receipts in terms of export. SACU is the, South African Customs Union, where there's about 5 countries there, Botswana, Lesotho, Swaziland, and Namibia, and they share revenue that is generated into the SACU account. And then we have the EU Economic Partnership Agreement with Namibia and also the 14 SADC countries that are there in terms of, liberalizing their market within SADC so that they can be able to trade with one another. But then with that one, SADC countries, the trade is very, very little. I did in my master's, I looked at the study of free trade. I looked of the trade within the SADC. My finding was that trade within SADC was so little because a lot of countries don't trade with one another in SADC. They look forward to Europe, the US, and bigger market. So those are some of the things that are. And then again, China, very big in terms of it's becoming now, an issue in Africa, not only in Africa, but Namibia. There's a lot there. They are coming in with their loans and grants that they are giving to government. Most governments, they want money. In Africa, the leaders want money. China is giving them so much money, and then they enter into all these funny agreements and so forth that is either benefiting the locals or somehow putting the local to a disadvantage. China is paying minimum wage when it comes to the people, and then they don't want to adhere to some of the issues. So they are involved in a couple of things, projects, education, health, construction, mostly with the constructions of roads, construction of government infrastructure. They've done so, building so much government infrastructure, whether the quality is good or not, but then we wish and hope that 20 years from now, 30 years, the infrastructure that China is building was still going to last. So there's always people commenting on that. We are compromising the quality by giving the Chinese coming in. So we don't want to discuss that here. Anyway, so in terms of the provider bilateral development assistance, Germany is still number one, and then we have the United States and eventually China that is coming in. When it comes to concessional loans, we have the German and China coming in there, and then China is providing about 3% of these loans to the Namibian government. So they feel they should go and meet the Chinese and trying to give as much as they can to the Chinese in the mining sector, in the diamond, in the uranium, and also see what they are able to do. India has been there in terms of technology in the education sector, in terms of creating this I think the health is the database for the different ministries and so forth. So, and again, defense, and also again, Russia has been there again with the issue of the natural gas. So the Russian state company that is there now is exploring the issue of natural gas and oil. And then BP has just been there with the government to see the possibility of conducting some oil. So this oil, whether when we get it, whether it's going to create a lot of trouble for us or not. So we're looking and hoping that it's going to be something that is a very good investment, employment opportunity for most people. And then Australia, Areva company is there in terms of uranium. So they are, all these countries, they are operating there. One thing that I wanted to share with you, it's also the issue of, concern here. There's so much regulation in Namibia that it takes about 66 days for you to start up a business from the point where you register to the point where this business should run and create. So there's just so much, bureaucracy that, steps that you need to follow. And that is creating so much negative impact in terms of, creating investment opportunity. And then that makes Namibia to be 78 out of 183 countries in terms of the ease of doing business in the country. And we want to compete, we want to be able. It's number 7 in Africa compared to, Mauritius, Botswana, and then Ghana. These are very recent statistics from the World Bank website. So that is another issue. And then some of the issue that pertaining to that is the issue of the, like I said, the structural bottlenecks that are there. The government, even the current Minister of Trade, who was then the Prime Minister, the first Prime Minister of Namibia, he said it, that we need to get rid of some of these bottlenecks in order to encourage more foreign direct investment. If we keep these bottlenecks in there, it's going to actually put so much, it's not going to give us as much as advantage in terms of realizing our potential in what is said to be the Vision 2030 that says by 2030 Namibia should be an industrialized country or close to being an industrialized country. But if we have these bottlenecks how can we get there? So some of them is lack of workers. I've just said the high transport cost, that is there's bureaucratic inefficiencies that exist, and then economic sector that is a bit concentrated in few people, and then these few elites, not distributing their wealth to other people, and that is another issue. And then, the energy shortages, that is a critical concern. When firms come to Namibia, they walk around, they look and see, we import this energy from South Africa, we import this energy from Zambia, we import this energy from Zimbabwe. And these countries are also having little national development plans. So the demand for the energy resources is becoming a challenge for this country. Therefore, they are cutting down in terms of how much they export to other countries. So now there's an issue, what do we do next, in terms of addressing that issues. And then the issue of the rigid labor laws, that is so much labor movement, so much strong, that the advocacy of the labor, when they are calling for wage increment, when they down their tools, the labor unions are there with them. So now you think about it. There was a company from Malaysia that wanted to take advantage of their GOA, African Growth Opportunity Act, by having a textile company or industry in Namibia, using that industry to export to the United States. But then what happened is, because of so much labor laws and strike and so much demand for cost of living, they decided that the cost of operating was becoming more than the profit that they were making, and they closed. They shut down and left all these white elephants building, 5 big complexes just there, and kids are making life and into these buildings. So there's just so much. And then again, in terms of the challenges now, the developmental challenges that we need to look at. This slide, we can come back to it when we have a discussion. So there's a number of them. The high unemployment rate that is standing at 51.2. That's big. That's a very big. And we're talking about people that are between 15, the age of 15 to 49, people that are actively seeking employment, that wants to work and contribute economically to the nation. And then you find that, that is a major issue. And then what is the government's response to that? There are a number of things that came. They've from last 2010, they came up with this TPEC, which is Targeted Intervention Program for Employment and Economic Growth. That should address the issue of employment into different sectors that they decided to fund, this 14.6 billion Namibian dollars. Agriculture, education, creating work in the public sector. Again, you want to blow up the public sector, which is already a bigger chunk. So this is something else. And then again, HIV and AIDS. The statistics that we had from 2003, Namibia was number 4 on HIV and AIDS in sub-Saharan Africa. Swaziland, Lesotho, Botswana, and then Namibia in 2003. But the recent statistics that we have now, that figure has gone down to 13.1, which is a very good thing. That when I talk about HIV and AIDS, I want to cry. And I've lost so many people, family members. I have family members that are living with HIV and AIDS, and it just touches me when I think about this. Every time I talk about HIV and AIDS, it's a big thing. And then poverty and hunger, 34% of people that have, they are living in poverty. In Namibia, when we say that poverty, it's people that are spending about 60% of their income on food. And that is just poverty. And then severe poverty, it's for people that spend about 80% of their income on food. Now you think about that is just food, one of the basic needs. What about the other needs as well? So that is, there's a lot that needs to be done. It's a lot that needs to be done. And then housing is becoming very, very costly. Even government employees right now cannot afford to buy a 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom house standing in Windhoek, in the capital city. It's becoming so costly. The land is there, but houses are so expensive. What should be done? how can government address some of these issues? And then sanitation, and then the potable water. I'll show you some of the quick slides there in terms of how do we provide potable water. And then the capital city itself, when you are in the city itself, you don't see this poverty. But the moment when you take time by driving on the outskirts of the city, you see a lot of people that are migrating from the rural area into the urban area, living in these corrugated iron sheet houses. And then there's no ablution facilities, there's no water, it's just a challenge. It's just a challenge. People look for opportunities to come to the urban area where there's opportunities for employment, but then when they come into these areas, find that it's so much critical. So there's a number of things I want you to remember. That slide is 18, and then we're going to come back to that. Some of the solutions that are proposed, agriculture is a big talk. MCA is funding agriculture. The government is funding agriculture through the Agribank, the Agriculture Bank of Namibia. The EU is funding agriculture. The German have also invested in agriculture. So there's a lot of conflicting little policies that are put in place there, in order to increase people's participation in agriculture and eventually to improve their quality of living. So green scheme projects are some of them where small farmers are identified, given small portion of land, 1 to 3 acres of land, to cultivate different horticultural products and sell them into the domestic market. So it's just for few people. Not everybody's benefiting there. So that is not really a bigger solution. The land reform program, I think I've discussed. Let me just go forward. These are some of the facts that I've just mentioned about HIV and AIDS. And then again, one will ask, so what has been the problem? Why the figure from 23.1 to 13.1? What has been the success story there? The issue is that people, they are now starting to know what HIV and AIDS. Before, when it came, nobody knew about this HIV and AIDS. People in the rural area where they would share different blades. In rural area, sometimes people don't take this Western medicine, tablets, and all these things. They use traditional medicine. They will take, barks of a tree, crush them or bend them somehow, chew some of that. They will use a razor blade to cut themselves and put that powder into the body. So people, traditional healers, this witchcraft, and people in the village, they share all these things. What they cut me here, put that powder, the next person comes, they use the same blade and cut and then put that powder into their body. So now that has been known, and people are being, they follow these education programs. People, not only in English, but they've become into local languages, so people are able to understand what is the HIV and AIDS, instead of just, showing people about condoms and everything. People, when I was growing up, it's not easy to sit with my father and talk about sex. We don't talk about that. My mom would not sit with my sisters and talk about sex. So when they came and started talking about sexual education to people, it's stigma. You don't know where to start. How do you start talking about sex with your siblings so with a lot of public knowledge, this is helping, and new infections are becoming less and less. But in 2009, there were about 5,000 new cases of HIV and AIDS that way. And then there are a number of things that are there. Poverty, it's one of the things, gender-based violence, and then transactional, people that probably say prostitution and so forth. So there's a lot of that. And people that are poor, they engage in a lot of activity in order for them to earn money. So there's a number of things. These I got from the Ministry of Health and Social Services statistics that was conducted in 2008. And then again, I've just said what are some of the major people that are involved. The faith-based organization, non-governmental organization, they've come hand now in helping everybody else. The antiretrovirals now, Namibia is giving about 90% of people that are infected with HIV and AIDS, they are able to receive now the antiretrovirals. So that has been a very good success. And then, like I said, thanking the US government for their very good effort in addressing these issues. So it's been very, very, very helpful. Education, say it's a bigger challenge. just last year there were a couple of, I think about 15,000 teachers that took an English test, and then 73% of these teachers failed that test. So we have a big problem in terms of how do we address the skills of these teachers so that we can improve our educational reform. If we don't, then we find the blind leading the blind, so the teachers they are giving wrong math to the students, they are giving the wrong verbs and wrong grammar to the students, and yet the students, they go somewhere and then they struggle with the learning. So who do we blame? There's been a lot of reform. Last year, there was a conference that spent about $7 million inviting all stakeholders in the education sector in July when we had the conference there, in Namibia. So that is a challenge. And then now there's also the issue of developing professional standards for the teachers. Let these teachers be certified to be teachers, so that we don't just have these teachers, like I told you, back then before independence or just after independence, people were being taught by people that just finished grade 12 certificate, with a grade 12 certificate, with no higher qualification they would come and teach. So these are some of the critical things. And then continuous professional development for the teachers. Bring all these teachers during their holidays and give them development skills. Teach them, a lot of them don't even know how to use this technology. A lot of kids now are on cell phones, they are on computers, they use different resources, but when they go to school, their teachers cannot use some of these book face or whatever, Twitter, or whatever you name them. So there's a lot in terms of how do we improve that. And then the land reform issue has been chaos. I mean, it's a challenging issue for Namibia. Government introduced what is referred to the willing buyer, the willing seller model that is also applied in South Africa in order to acquire land from the farmers, instead of us just going with the machetes to all the farmers. But we decided that let's try something and see whether it works. But then the rate is very, very slow, and then a lot of people are finding themselves into this corrugated iron sheet. They want a room like this, they take scrap metal from other places and then build a shack like that and stay there. You have your 2, 3, 4 kids living with you in that little room, and it's hot during the summer, temperatures is 104, and then you sleep in that place. So it's not a good thing. Housing, by village houses, people are living in these kind of thatched houses, and then this other way of doing. So again, in terms of investment, the government said that, well, by 2030, 2020, they want to acquire at least so many million, 10,000, a little over 10 million hectares of farm, million hectares, so that they can distribute that to about, 7,000 families. They buy these bigger farms, demarcate or divide them into small partitions, and then allocate families. And then these families that are being resettled there, again, their agriculture knowledge is very little. So we resettle people that start producing this illegal traditional alcohol on farms. Instead of engaging in agriculture activity, they are now engaged in making this traditional. People become so unproductive, and then there's a challenge. Now there's a grant that we got. I participated in that, training of emerging commercial farmers in Namibia. So that part of these people, when they are resettled, should be given basic agriculture, skills, so that they are able to grow few crops and so forth. So it's a challenge. This has been a challenge. And then the flooding, like I mentioned, displacing lots of people. Last year, there were about 160 schools in the northern communal area that was closed down because of the flooding. So a lot of people are displaced, traffic and everything, malaria, waterborne diseases, dysentery, people get there, and still they are celebrating. Children don't see that as a problem. They go there and swim, drink that water, and then, it's a big thing. There's a lot of research or some kind of help from Texas A&M engineers that should come and help Namibia and see how well we can address that issue. It's a bigger challenge. These pictures, I took them from our local newspapers, reporters that have gone there. And then again, one of the issues addressing the issue of resources, the community-based nature resource or nature management program that is focusing mostly for the San people, you know, giving them the rights, exclusive rights to manage resources, this wildlife. But there's also a problem to that. The more they are living with this wildlife, the more it's creating conflict with human, you know, destructing of their farms and destructing, you know, become lions face to face with a lion. What do you do? With an elephant, what do you do? So they've been given this right so that they should harvest some of these, you know, get certificates from the Ministry of Environment and Tourism through trophy hunting. Farmers, you know, hunters from the US that come and go there to hunt a rhino for 50,000 or 100,000. That money goes to the conservancy or the community-based who share these resources to themselves. But they also leave the meat. What they want is just the trophy, take it to the taxidermy, make it into some kind of a trophy that they can bring here, a souvenir or something to mount. So there's a lot of challenges. The San or the Croatian people, these are hunters and gatherers, so they benefit a lot from all these natural products, and see, you know, how well we can do that. The buffaloes, again, the more we have a lot of buffaloes, the more there's an outbreak of foot and mouth disease affecting our livestock production. When our livestock beef is affected, it means that we export less to the EU, and then when that happens, it means that we reduce the number of farm workers so that we stay active, profitable. So how do we address all these issues? So these are some of the critical issues. And then again, the Vision 2030, there's also a very big concern. These state-owned enterprises that are becoming, they are becoming like a leech, you know. They suck blood from the government, they are sucking money from the government, increase their salaries, but then they are not profitable. They are not being profitable, or they are not doing anything, not even to balance their budget. So people are saying, why don't we privatize them, and maybe somehow, you know, like our national courier in Namibia has been up every time getting bailouts from the government, giving its for funding, and what are they doing? So there's issue for that. And then, you know, Vision 2030, like I said, how are we going to compete by 2030 if we still have all these issues at hand, and how do we do that, and so forth. And then the issue of rural electrification, I say to you that Namibia is so huge, bigger than the state of Texas. State of Texas has so many people, 23 million, 25 million people, and then we have only about 2 million, a little over 2 million people. So big, and people are in different pockets. How are we reaching these people to create electricity that is needed? And then that's a bigger challenge. Some of them don't even stay where there's a road. They just stay there because they don't want to be disturbed. When they are living in large community, the portions of land that they get is very little. So they opt to go stay further so that they can have bigger portions of land for them to cultivate. So it's a bigger challenge. And then there's a bigger funding spending that has been created there in terms of how well we address those issues. You know, government is placed in terms of creating the road infrastructure. Right now, the 2007, there was a bridge that was built over my region, the Caprivi region, connecting Zambia, and then that road has been built to connect the DRC, so that, you know, Namibia can export also to the DRC. And now they've been also open another infrastructure road that is connecting Botswana, you know, through the Kalahari, Trans-Kalahari Highway. That is allowing, you know, Botswana, which is a landlocked country, to access the port of Warp Space in terms of shipment. So these are some of the biggest thing, and government is, you know, invested about, you know, a little over, I mean, almost 2 billion, or 7% of the investment. Then agriculture sector, a bigger thing, like I say, you know, it's a dual sector. You have a lot of the commercial farmers, you know, 4,000 farmers that are owning land that is 50,000, 30,000, or 20,000 acres of land. And then you have the communal area farms that are owning about 1 to 3 acres of land. And then how do we help these people? You know, most of the commercial farmers, they are based producing these large frame animals, you know, as compared to the rural area where we use the sanga, the nguni, these small frame animals that they've adapted very, very well to the condition. So there's bigger things. You have the commercial farmers represented by the Namibian Agriculture Union, and then you have the communal farmers that is represented by the Namibia National Farmers Union. So why don't we have one organization and then help each other? So there's always conflict. When you talk about this sector, you always hear a lot of bullets flying over, weights and everything. So we want to be stable as much as we can. We don't want to get involved into chaos that is going to hamper our economic development. So we are at peace. Some of the issues, the green scheme, like I said, few farmers, identified farmers that are getting, the Ministry of Agriculture has this loan that they gave millions of money to the agricultural bank. The agricultural banks give these small loans, 20,000 to 50,000 to small farmers who manages, get plots in the green scheme. The government also provide irrigation for these people so that they are able to produce something. So again, it's not much. It's not benefiting everybody. We need everybody to be able to benefit from all these resources. And this is there's pineapples, bananas, and mangoes that are being produced far up in the northeastern part. And then the rice project, through the Japanese corporation, we have a rice project in the Caprivi. But rice is not the traditional crop in Namibia. It's something new. So how well it's being received over, so we need to see how well that can be done. And now in our sister college, we're in the northern part of Namibia, where there are a lot of Oshanas. They are giving training to a few identified farmers who should plow this rice in the Oshana, like the wetlands, to take advantage of that. Instead of just overlooking the Oshanas, the wetlands, they must try to plant some rice there. So we see how that is, when it started, very few farmers showed positive response. Eventually, they say that it's growing. There's a study that is being done again by the Japanese and the colleagues in Obongo campus who are looking at it. And then the irrigation scheme at Itunda, and then some of the good husbandry that the MCA is advocating, MCA, building of quarantine and feeding facilities for the farmers in the rural northern communal areas. They could come and finish their animals before sending them to the market. So they've created all these facilities where the farmers can keep their animals there for 21 days and do that. And then again, the potable drinking water project that is also funded by the European Union, creating this infrastructure there. So there's there, but like I say, pockets of people in all these different corners of the country. How do we address this issue? So there's still the challenge. And then just the green scheme, Itunda, that is focusing on onions, cabbages, and then wheat, and then potatoes there. So there's a little bit. This is not much. The capacity is very limited. We need more in terms of that. And then there's other projects that are there, little projects like in Windhoek, encouragement, the Ministry of Agriculture with training from the Agriculture Department is training people in Windhoek that, well, you have this space, why don't you plow something in a trough? It's the size of this table. It's like so you put some you put some soil in this one and grow some kind of vegetables there in order to address the issue of food security. So it's not much, but it's helping. And then another issue that I wanted to mention here is this project of the MCA that is focusing on indigenous natural products. So what they are doing is that they have identified some of these products, plants that are existing in Namibia, that could add value to the communities that are living within these vicinities where these plants occur. One of them, we have here, I've shared with you, it's this picture here is the marula. So marula, they crush this, they get the oil, or they can also make wine from this marula. But then we don't want to make people drunk. The more they make this wine, they get so excited and forget about other economic potential. They're just making wine. So they get these fruits, they collect them, crush them, in those things, and then go on. So MCA has been very good. And then devil's claw, it's another one medicinal plant that is being used. There's, anti-inflammation or joint illness. It can help with those things. These companies here that are involved in Namibia, the Sasco, another company that is doing that, and then Texas A&M, the Ag Economics department is also involved there in terms of the market study for Devil's Claw in the United States. So I had a chance to meet with a few professors that are working on this project, and we went to California in terms of meeting with people in the nutraceutical and pharmaceutical industry to see how well they can look at Devil's Claw. But a lot of people say, just when you mention devil, they say, what? So there's a need in terms of to find the right name, to find the, what can work for the people, because no one wants to think about the devil. But some of it, the sour plant, this one, it's very good soil for cosmetic, for people in the cosmetic industry. Like the Himba people have used this thing traditionally many, many years ago. Himba people, they dress themselves into this ointment with clay soil, colored clay. They use some of these products to rub on their body. Even if they don't shower for a day or two, they still smell very good. So these are some of the things that are being talked about. Let's use this in terms of how well we can address the issue. And then quality of the water. This picture, I took it in my village. This is the water that we use in my village. From this borehole, we use this. You can see there, it's a container. It's maybe a 5 gallon, 3 gallon or so. So that thing is deeper. I don't know how many feet or foot, but I know it's more than some can be more than like 100 meters deep or even 50. They use concrete rings. They drill the hole and put concrete rings that they put together thick as far. And then we get this water. I don't know if you can see from there. This water is milk white or cloudy, or how you can say that. And people drink that water. They drink that water. And I grew up from there, doing the same thing. Imagine yourself, you have to wash your white uniform shirt in this kind of water. And then you drink that. But then there's been improvements in terms of how they're doing it. There's this chloride tablets that they put in there. It cleans that water, and then it comes out clean this way. But then the local people that love the taste of natural water, the scent of the water, say, this is disturbing our taste buds because it's something else new. We are used to the water that smells so fresh. And then you still find people that drink straight from the Zambezi River. They just go there straight and collect water from the Zambezi River without cooking or boiling the water. They just drink. Me and you, if we drink that water just like that, the next thing that will happen to us will be at the clinic or at the doctor, because your tummy will not feel very, very good. So some of those, and then these are some of the pictures of the different Namibian people. Like I say, the people, this is women and their little kids going into the riverbank and collect water. And this river is known for its very naughtiness. There's a lot of crocodile attacks, a lot of young people that have died. So far, statistics say that this year alone, about 23 young people have died because of crocodile attack in the Kalundu River alone. So there's a lot of things. And some of them, they catch the cows as well. So these are challenges. Should we put fences around these rivers, or what should we do? And people know about this. People just still go there and swim. They swim. In 2010, we lost a student in the same river. A student who was studying at the University of Namibia. They went there. There's a place where they could sit and have their lunch. I think people, the supervisor, the person who was in charge, they didn't realize that some of these guys have taken alcohol. So they were swimming, they jumped in there. So one of our male students passed away. They discovered his body 2 days later. So it was not a very good thing. And then on their way coming from the Kavango going to Windhoek, their bus had an accident. So all these poor students, they were terrified, and it was not a good thing. And then imagine these are the hereros that we have here. People that have traveled to Namibia, they've seen the hereros and how they dress themselves so pretty, so good, to demonstrate that they are wealth in cattle. They do that. And then think about who of you women can carry stuff this heavy on your head? Who can carry? This is what is happening. They go out in the field, they can harvest things and carry them on top of their head to bring home. it's a big thing. It's a challenge. And then this is just the Swanas of Namibia, and then the Himba men and the Himba women there. So that is. And then, like I said, the pearl millet, the dry fish, some of the things that I miss. I wish I could have brought a bag full of food from Namibia. Is the food, the dry food, the dry fish with that different scent. The smell might not be very good for you, but I like it. When somebody is cooking it there, you can tell the smell of fish. It's not very good, but when it's time for eating, it's good. So the pearl millet, the mahangu flour that I wanted to share with you, the picture. You see, when you finish cooking it, it looks something like that. How many people would eat that thing you use with your hand? You cook, you take a small, and then you make a ball, dip it in the sauce, and then eat it. So it's what we survived. And then this one is just a picture that I took with from my students in our department, food science, that are trying to make, like, is it cookies or biscuits from this mahangu? So this is some of the things that we teach them. Some of them are trying to make bread from this mahangu, just so that they can teach the local people in terms of how to do it. So they mix it that way. And then that is Mr. Jabari in Dr. Elliot's house, Maureen. They prepared this chair. I wanted to bring this one, particularly if you look there, the background, there's a giraffe thing. So that's very, very good. And then you see here, there's Texas A&M. I got this from the university website. Texas A&M has so much potential to offer to Namibia, the University of Namibia in particular, even the politics. So I still encourage that, more research, more collaboration, more networks should continue to prosper between the two institutions. So we put you there because you mean a lot to us. It's not just for the sake of trying to show that Texas A&M is a university, but the partnership should continue. Not only me alone, that it's basically just came from Namibia, but I want to see more collaboration in research, in a lot of other activities. Start abroad program for students. Samantha, the ALEC department is working on that. So I'm very, very much happy to have this kind of relationship with this very good, prestigious university, Texas A&M. I wish I could be part in a way, or get to school for another graduate school or anything in future or so. But I really appreciate being here. It's a good thing. I thought I should also share with you some of the books that you might want to look at. I ordered these books. I'm still waiting for them to come up. I just learned about them about a week ago, reading through. They are very, very nice. So this other one here was written by the brother to Thabo Mbeki, Molaitsi Mbeki, South African. This one I think is it's a professor somewhere, I don't know, it's MIT, that is discussing the issue of why nations fell, prosperity, power and poverty. Is addressing the issue that we need to be careful of the little 1% that are in power. Those are the most dangerous ones compared to the 99%. So we need to see those people the 10% of the people that control the economy and decisions that are happening. Those are the people to be careful, because they are extractive in nature. I mean, they have good policies in place, but then in a way they are also very extractive. Think about Mugabe and his little people that they have in place, how much they've done to Zimbabwe, from a country that was so prosperous, to a point where people are running away and seeking employment in other neighboring countries. So the little people that you have has so much effect on the whole people. So that's very, very good. And then this book is just targeting how to overcome Africans' challenges, different authors with different things. Then this guy he put them together, he edited and put them together. They are discussing quite a lot of extensive issues from Nigeria to South Africa and what is happening and how can we avoid all these challenges that we see. So there's a lot. I thank you, and like I said, I hope it doesn't end here. I hope we continue the relationship, we continue the network, the collaboration in whatever capacity. When you think about Texas A&M going to Namibia, then you have to think about, there's this Kalundu that was once a Texas. Can we see this person? I appreciate the support that I got from everybody here in Texas. It will be safe to live but I'll be happy to be with my family, my little boy, and see my mom and sisters, brothers, so it will be very, very nice. But I enjoy my stay here.